Hello everybody, video here for you today. This is the retro no cap recap of The Curse of Oak Island season 8 episode 7 called Mounding Evidence. Originally aired December 22nd, 2020. If you missed any of my recaps of previous and future episodes, there's a link to my Oak Island playlist in the upper right. Let's get into it. Boo-doo-doo-doo. Previously on The Curse of Oak Island, people have been looking for an incredible treasure for 230 years. Marty arrives at the money pit area and is shown 28 feet of loose material brought up from the depths of 179 through 207 feet. Terry confirms that this kind of void could have caused a collapse and also could be where the H8 caisson plug was lost. In 1861, shaft 6 was dug 18 feet west of the original money pit in an attempt to do what other groups had done before. Dig a new, deeper shaft relatively close to the original one and then tunnel over to the original in an attempt to avoid the flood tunnels that have thwarted every searcher group. 6 feet short of their target, the tunnel and shaft got flooded out, resulting in 2 fatalities. A few days later, people on the surface heard very loud noise underground, leading them to believe that both the original shaft and shaft 6 had collapsed. 3 years prior to this episode, the Laguna team believes that one of their caissons, instead of penetrating the chapel vault, pushed it down and to the side instead. The team does metal detect the core samples, none found among the silt and rock. They are continuing past 207 feet in that borehole. Gary and Peter arrive on Lot 13, which was recently cleared of trees and heavy foliage in an area that had been pointed out by researchers Corin Mall and Christopher Morford based on aligning first a menorah with Nolan's cross and then pentagrams inside the resulting lines. A reciprocal area on the west side of the swamp was also given, resulting in the finding of a trench feature. Gary's using a metal detector that can detect metal much deeper than his usual equipment. He hasn't been able to do much detecting in that area due to the overgrowth. He finds this 1700s British ox shoe. And then another. And then a third. Gary points out that they are all in a straight line, which he takes to mean it's a trail. Here he is holding 4, so they didn't show the detecting and digging up of one of them. Earlier this season, Gary found a trail from the swamp Lot 14 to the stone structure on Lot 15. The new one is all on Lot 13 so far. Staying on the same line, Gary finds a decorative finial similar to the one he found on Lot 15 several weeks prior. This one kind of looks like a key. Transition shot shows how much has been cleared away. Following up on the sonar data anomaly from the previous episode, divers Tony Sampson and Alec Laguna, along with Jack and Peter, try to determine what it is and if it's related to the stones all at the same elevation that Dr. Spooner said was like a road across the swamp also in the previous episode. They will start off the boulderless beach, the northwest portion of the Elephant's Head. Tony and Alex have previously noted these anomalies that are in a straight line. Canadian law prohibits removing anything from the ocean bottom, but they will still dive and use metal detectors. Unfortunately, the visibility is horrible. But the metal detector is going nuts near 2 large boulders that could not be seen with the underwater camera due to the bad viz. Peter does a comms check from the boat, but gets nothing back. Tony and Alex can hear Peter, but Peter can't hear them replying. The metal detector continues to buzz as they go along, but they can't see anything. Tony says there's nothing more they can do, so they head back to the boat. They will head around to the swamp to see if Viz is any better there. The transition shot shows the boulderless beach. Not in this episode, but something I found out today is that Nolan's cross points to the center of the boulderless beach. I do not recall this information being on the show. If I find out anything else concerning that tidbit, I will include it in an Oak Island Looks Back and Ahead video. Doug and Steve have asked Rick, Marty, and Dan Hinsky to visit them in the research center for some new information. While investigating the hillside near the believed 1500s pine tar kiln, Doug noticed an 130-foot long rock mound on the highest elevation of the island. The still is from GoPro video that Doug took. The date on the computer is July 30th, 2020. A few years later, they began not showing the date on the taskbar of computers appearing on the show. Dan Hinsky, a 50-plus year veteran of Oak Island searching, says that he is vaguely aware of it, but their focus was more on things directly related to treasure. The group heads to Lot 15 to take a closer look at it. The diving expedition arrives at the swamp to investigate the square feature that sonar detected. Since it is more of a technical dive and the comms are still not working correctly, Tony will go alone. Presumably there is a camera crew diver as well that would be able to see if there were any problems. After a few minutes of searching, Tony finds a square formation of rocks that he says might be the remains of an old cribbed wharf. He goes on to say that it's probably a solid feature that continues into the swamp. Not that far away on Lot 15, Rick, Marty, Doug, and Dan arrive at the mound feature. Rick says that Fred Nolan did digging nearby, so these could be his spoils, but that wouldn't explain why the center of it is left open. They also discuss a Robert Dunfield ditch from the 1960s in the vicinity, so it could be those spoils as well. Marty says step 1 would be to have Gary metal detect it. And step 2 would be to have the archaeologist investigate it. Narrator Robert Clotworthy reminds us that the feature is approximately 200 yards north of the money pit. Rick says that the stones would be too large to move by hand, so there would likely be ox shoes there. Gary arrives to metal detect, and archaeologist Laird, Liz, and Aaron show up shortly after. Aaron says it reminds him a little bit of the serpent mounds in Ontario. I did not remember that being mentioned previously. Ohio has its own famous serpent mound. The Ontario mounds are located 1,100 miles west of Oak Island and total 180 feet long. They date as old as 2,000 years ago. Laird, who rightfully always tries to eliminate the mundane answer first, mentions Fred Nolan's work in the area. Rick, though, has talked to Fred's son Tom, who says they documented all that on video, and the mound is not something his father did. Aaron goes on to say the interesting thing is why the boulders first, then covered with dirt. Liz says it's an odd layout for a spoils pile. Laird suggests a 3D model of it be made. He and Steve will do that. Doug says he will research serpent mounds as far as symbolism. In the war room, the dive team updates Rick, Marty, and other members of the team. They decide to try to map the ocean bottom around the island with a different technology to get a better understanding of what is there, since diving and sonar alone did not provide that. A transition shot is a rear view of the elephant head, the money pit area, the swamp, and some of the smaller islands nearby. I'll be continuing retro no-cap recaps of Season 8 while also recapping the new Season 12 episodes late Tuesday nights as they air. All other episodes are in my Oak Island playlist already. I'm also doing retro no-cap recaps of Seasons 2 through 4 of The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch as I have time. Those are slow coming. Seasons 1 and 5 are all done and they are in the Skinwalker Ranch playlist. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe, like, and comment. Sempre avanti.